Hello everyone, welcome back. As always, this is Marcel. Today's discussion is about something that's rather frustrating to those who have experienced it. I'm going to be covering the realization one has that the ex-girlfriend that they left a period of time ago, or more likely who left them, is treating their new or current boyfriend or husband better. That is to say, better than the person whom they broke up with. This has happened to me several times personally, and I know I'm not alone. It's an interesting phenomenon. Whereas the woman may break up with a man over a certain behavior or thing that they're doing, only to get with a guy who does it more often. Use an action that the ex-boyfriend did as the excuse for breaking up with him, only to get with a man who does the exact same thing. And yet they'll tolerate it much better with this new boyfriend. They may even be willing to do things with the new boyfriend that they would have refused to ever consider with the previous one. Well, sit back. Over the next 10 minutes, I plan to break down why everything is not as it seems, and there's actually far more at play when it comes to the perception of the new happy couple. I assure you, more often than not, it is merely a thin veneer of happiness. Let's break a couple of these things down. First things first, and this is a big one. Recognize that the perception that a person has looking back on their ex and their ex's new relationship is likely the same projection that was perceived by everyone else when they themselves were with that ex. In other words, she tries to make it seem like they're that happy, or that the couple, the pairing, is that perfect regardless of what it actually is. Though it's hard to see it that way because, we can't see it from the outside. We're living in it. It's not that hard to seem like a perfect little happy couple, at least in the short term. And considering that the social networking and dealing with other people and putting on a front, in other words, is kind of the woman's avenue, like Facebook queen kind of thing, it would make perfect sense that they could make it look happy or not, whatever they want. No good selfie goes to waste. Not to mention, as for the guy, the average person is likely to take more interest looking back on an ex, maybe out of just pure curiosity, than they would have prior to actually dating them. So the persona of happiness, which wouldn't have been apparent to them while they were in the relationship, suddenly becomes apparent to them after the fact. It almost verges on a scenario like the grass is greener on the other side. No, I can assure anyone that this situation pertains to that she is the same woman, or at least has all the same problems that she did previously. More often than not, she has more of them. Roller coasters look like so much fun from the outside, and then you're sitting in somebody else's vomit, losing your iPhone and freaking out trying to get your buckle to reconnect before the next loop. Then you couple that fake persona with the whole falsification of memories. Basically, memories wither away with time, and we're left with either positive or negative things to think about and remember, whereas the grinding, monotonous crap that's all through the middle that actually causes more problems and is the greater bulk of the relationship kind of fades away with time. We get left with things that our minds find emotionally relevant, be it good or bad, despite them being a smaller percentage compared to the rest of the relationship. I won't get too in-depth into it. I'll put a link at the end of this video to that video if you're curious. It does refer mostly to the golden days kind of a phenomenon, which is almost less applicable here. So moving on, why is it that she is willing to get with a guy that is almost exactly the same or causes a lot of the same problems for her that the previous boyfriend did? Now, the upfront obvious answer might be that that's the kind of guy that she's into, right? That, if she likes bad boys and she broke up with the last boyfriend because he caused her trouble in that sense that, she doesn't know any better, so she's going to get with another bad boy. Well, of course, isn't it just typical that the woman is always the victim in scenarios like this? She's always innocent. A convenient little answer that keeps her from being accountable for her own actions. Isn't it entirely possible that she picks boyfriends like that intentionally because she is more comfortable with it? Or more importantly, if that was a good enough excuse to break up with him on a previous relationship, that it could become an excuse later on? Think of it this way. She breaks up with guy A because he drinks too much. Just to pull a random idea out of a hat here. Only for her to wind up with guy B, who is also a drinker. Now, maybe she's got a thing for guys that drink. Sure, maybe she's a drinker herself. But isn't it also very possible that she picks that kind of guy intentionally, that when she wants a way to bail on the relationship scot-free, she has the perfect excuse? And it's already something that she's had issues with guys in the past. It is equally plausible that that is a tool for her to use in relationships, as opposed to it being a simple interest that she has no control over. In fact, it's even more likely, considering the previous relationship just ended because of that reason. It's fresh in her mind that if she actually had a problem with it, it would only be common sense to avoid it in any subsequent boyfriends. The icing on the cake here is that she could potentially even use that as a reason why this new boyfriend is gonna owe her something. Like, she is so in love with this new guy that she's willing to put up with the fact that he does this bad thing, insert random bullshit here, and he's going to spend the rest of their relationship, as long as it lasts, feeling like, she's willing to put up with him. Now, I realize that a lot of women are completely irrational about this sort of thing, but, come on. I'm going to assume that many women are not that foolish and helpless. They're doing that shit on purpose. Another way a person can look at this is that the reason she broke up with boyfriend A, the drinking, wasn't actually a problem in the first place. She was perfectly fine with it and just needed an excuse to leave him. Anything that was important to him that he wasn't going to step out on in order to keep the relationship with her. In a sense, kind of like a shit test. If he was willing to give up something that mattered that much to him for her, then she can just start whittling away everything about him until he's a shell of the former man that he was. If he's not willing to bend, then she has the perfect out to just leave the relationship scot-free. Meanwhile, raking his name through the mud as she goes. I've always loved to compare relationships to a chess game. Not that I think of that necessarily as a healthy relationship, of course. It just seems to be the way that it wants to always play out nowadays. The perfect move is one in which your opponent has to make a choice, and no matter which direction they go, the outcome still benefits the other player. Women do that shit on an emotional level to men every frickin' day. Now, wrapping up with the final concept, it's a really big part of these frustrating things that exes are suddenly willing to do. Looking at the examples of things that were previously prohibited or of no interest to the girlfriend or wife or whatever it was. Now all of a sudden they get with this new guy and it's like the biggest shit in the world. They want to do it all the time with them. That used to piss me off so bad. But then I realized that the entire point of restricting that activity to me and not to the other person was probably just that other person doesn't give a shit about doing that activity. It's not important to them, so there was no reason for her to hold back on it. Kind of a carrot in front of the horse scenario. For all the outsider guy knows, that activity could be something that the new boyfriend absolutely hates, and she's making him do it because that's her way of punishing him. When you see a flip-flop like that coming from a woman, now it is possible that she just changed her mind. That could happen, but realistically, what are the genuine odds of that? Isn't it much more likely that that change in behavior was simply a manipulative tool that reflects from the previous relationship and shows how flaky and inconsistent that she really is? The reason why the ex-boyfriend never got those things is only because it was important to them. I guarantee there are things that the new and current boyfriend wants to do or would love to do and is not being allowed to do because that's the tool that makes him work harder, try harder, or generally put more energy into the relationship. You see, when we sit back and we look at how fake and false a lot of these relationships must be when the woman is just willing to repeat the exact same patterns on things that are negative and then flip-flop on things they made a complete stance against prior, it can be very telling on how pointless the entire experience is from the first place. So I would say to anyone who is looking back enviously on an ex, frustrated on the apparently positive experience that her new partner is having, I can guarantee he is just as miserable, if not more so, than anything that person had been with or been through with her. Honestly, a man is just lucky to be done with that drama and shit, never to have to look back again. Of course, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe women are innocent little puppy dog-eyed angels that just have no agency over their actions and are helpless in this big, dangerous world, and they really have no idea what they're doing. Tell me what you think down below. What was the craziest shit you've seen along those lines? What kind of roller coaster rides you seen your ex go on? Before I forget, here is that link that I promised you to False Memories. In the meantime, if you want to hear more of my videos, like, subscribe, and share. Hope to see you again soon. This has been Marcel.